If you buy a laptop in 2026 based entirely on reading its spec sheet, you are going to waste your money. The internet is completely divided on this right now. One camp insists that Windows gives you strictly more hardware for your dollar, more RAM, more storage, more ports. The other camp argues Apple's latest silicon is so efficient that traditional hardware metrics don't even matter anymore. Both sides are missing the actual reality of the market. The traditional rules of what makes a computer good completely invert depending on exactly how much cash you have to spend. This chart maps out exactly what we're testing. At the bottom, we have the $600 featherweights, the entry-level MacBook Neo and its equivalent Windows counterpart. At the top, the $4,500 professional heavyweights, the maxed-out MacBook Pro up against a top-tier Windows machine. We are running all four of these laptops through physical drop tests, real-world battery drains, port connectivity checks, and raw performance benchmarks. Buying a computer based on brand loyalty is a mistake. Identifying your exact budget tier is the only way to get the right tool for your specific daily workflow. We have to start at the $600 entry level because the discrepancy in physical build quality here is massive. Apple's strategy at this price is structural integrity. They machine the MacBook Neo out of a single solid block of aluminum. You cannot get it to flex or squeak. But to hit that $600 price point, they strip away features like keyboard backlighting. The Windows strategy at $600 goes the opposite direction. They use heavily plastic chassis materials to keep costs down. The result is a creaky hinge, a hollow-feeling keyboard deck, and visible flex when you press down on the body. This chart tracks multitasking performance across 20 browser tabs and a Zoom call. Even though Windows has double the physical RAM, the MacBook Neo doesn't fall behind. Because its SSD speeds are so high, the system can move data into swap memory fast enough to match the output of the 16GB Windows machine. But look what happens when we track battery life. The $600 Windows machine utilizes a new, ultra-efficient Snapdragon X mobile chip. It easily runs past the 8-hour mark under heavy load, which completely destroys the Mac's runtime. That Snapdragon chip does come with a specific trade-off. Because it uses mobile architecture, you might run into software compatibility quirks if you rely on heavily outdated legacy Windows programs. Storage and connectivity heavily favor Windows at this tier too. You get 512 gigabytes of storage compared to the Mac's 256, plus useful legacy ports like USB-A and a standard headphone jack. Apple restricts you to 2 USB-C ports. The $600 trade-off is highly defined. Windows sacrifices physical durability to give you maximum specs and incredible battery life. Mac sacrifices your storage capacity and port access to give you unyielding hardware stability. Step up to the $4,500 high-end tier, and those budget rules completely reverse. To justify this price tag, high-end Windows machines pack in massive, dedicated desktop-grade graphics cards like the RTX 5090. They throw brute force hardware at every problem. The upside of that hardware is absolute dominance in PC gaming, blazing fast 3D rendering times, and the ability to drive massive, color-accurate 4K OLED touchscreens. The downside is that an RTX 5090 guzzles power even when it isn't being pushed. Battery life on the $4,500 Windows laptop clocks in at barely 4 hours, forcing you to constantly carry around a power brick the size of a construction block. This dial tracks single-core performance. Because the $4,500 MacBook Pro uses a unified M-series architecture, it delivers 53% faster speeds than the top-tier Windows equivalent, and it does so without actively draining the battery to zero. Port utility also flips. Every USB-C port on the MacBook Pro is a uniform, high-speed Thunderbolt 5 connection. The Windows machine, meanwhile, uses a cocktail of different speed standards across its ports and still relies on a bulky power cable that can easily pull the laptop off a table if you trip on it. Spend $4,500 and the Mac becomes your highly mobile, hyper-efficient tool for seamless connectivity. The Windows machine abandons mobility to become a specialized brute force desktop replacement. Benchmark speeds look great on paper, but a laptop's actual value is tested by the physical and software friction it encounters in daily life. When we ran our physical drop test at the $600 tier, the plastic chassis on the budget Windows laptop resulted in instant, total destruction. The screen died completely. The $600 Mac Neo hit the exact same floor, but its solid aluminum body kept the internal components perfectly intact. It booted right back up. But weight is the enemy of gravity. At the $4,500 tier, both laptops completely failed the drop test. Their immense bulk, directed entirely into a single corner upon impact, shattered both screens instantly. Then there is software friction. Apple's tightly closed ecosystem means interface animations run at a flawlessly smooth 60 frames per second, and integrating with an iPhone requires zero setup. This diagram illustrates what happens inside a high-end Windows machine. It suffers from driver layering. You have Microsoft's operating system, the manufacturer's custom settings, and individual component drivers all trying to communicate. They frequently crash into each other, creating random lag and dropped inputs. Real-world friction, whether it's gravity pulling your laptop off a desk or software drivers freezing your project file, dictates a machine's lifespan far more than its internal processing power ever will. This flowchart breaks down exactly who should buy what. There is no universal winner in 2026. There is only the correct tool for your specific lifestyle. If you are a stationary office worker or a careful student, buy the $600 Windows laptop. You get massive internal storage and endless battery life, as long as you treat the plastic hardware gently. If you are a heavy traveler or a student who abuses their tech, buy the $600 Mac Neo. You are paying for guaranteed physical survival and system stability under rough conditions. If you are a 3D artist, a dedicated gamer, or a tech tinker, buy the $4,500 Windows machine. It is a specialized workstation that will crush heavy renders, provided you keep it plugged into the wall. And if you are a professional creative who demands pristine audio for video calls, workflow reliability, and untethered processing power on the go, the $4,500 MacBook Pro is exactly what you need. A spec sheet is just a promise. The best laptop in 2026 is simply the one that removes the most friction from your specific budget bracket.